What happens when everything you thought you knew about your town, your safety, your future, turns out to be a lie? When the people sworn to protect you are the very ones setting the trap. In a courtroom chilled by silence and judgment, two figures stand in chains, once symbols of promise, now painted as criminals. Across the room, the ones who dragged them here watch with smug smiles, certain no one will question the truth they've twisted. But what if the real crime is hidden in plain sight? What if this isn't just a mistake, but part of something far more sinister? Stay with this story. The truth is darker than you think, and it's about to erupt. The air inside Southaven County Courthouse was sharp, cold, like the morning itself. Outside, the Mississippi Fall painted the trees in strokes of gold and crimson, but inside the courtroom, all color seemed to drain away. Every seat was filled. Locals packed shoulder to shoulder, whispers dancing through the aisles like nervous ghosts. This wasn't just another case. It was the case, the kind of scandal that shattered illusions. At the center of it all stood Ivy and Ruby Quinn. The Quinn twins. Identical in beauty, intelligence, and poise, yet distinctly their own. Ivy, the calmer one, eyes cool and calculating. Ruby, fiery and fearless, her gaze challenging anyone who dared meet it. Both just 22, honor students, community volunteers, loved by every teacher, every neighbor. The kind of girls mothers pointed to and said, "Be like them." But now they stood shackled. Their wrists gleamed with cold steel, their clothes traded for prison gray. The image of perfection, crushed under accusations too shocking for anyone to comprehend. Possession with intent to distribute. Felony drug charges. Gasps had echoed through town when news first broke. People didn't believe it. Couldn't. But as they sat, eyes fixed on the twins, the truth seemed to blur. That's what chains did. They made you look guilty, even when you weren't. Across the aisle, two men stood in uniform, their faces carved in smug satisfaction. Logan Reeves. Chase Miller. Veteran officers. Decorated. Trusted. Reeves, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, eyes cold as stone, leaned over and whispered something to Miller. Both chuckled, low and cruel. Their laughter echoed like nails scraping against the silence. Ruby clenched her jaw. Ivy's eyes narrowed. They weren't laughing when they threw us against the hood of that cruiser. They weren't smiling when they found what they planted. But they are now. And yet, the twins said nothing. Not yet. Because behind their silence, behind the tears their parents shed in the front row, behind the laughter of two corrupt men, was a truth so dark, so explosive, it would tear this courtroom apart. The judge banged his gavel. Court is now in session. But for Ivy and Ruby Quinn, the fight had already begun. Before the chains, before the courtroom, before the cold stares and whispered accusations, there was only home. Southaven, Mississippi. Small town. Big faith. The kind of place where doors stayed unlocked and everyone knew your name. For Ivy and Ruby Quinn, it was a place of pride. A place they loved. Their father, David Quinn, had spent 27 years teaching history at Southaven High. He believed in truth, in justice, in telling the stories that others tried to bury. Their mother, Monica, worked as a social worker, the kind who knew every broken family by name and fought tooth and nail to keep children safe. Integrity wasn't just something Ivy and Ruby learned, it was the air they breathed. They grew up in a modest house on Maple Street, helped with Sunday school, graduated with honors, and spent their summers tutoring kids at the local youth center. That July night had been no different. They'd stayed late at the center, helping a 10-year-old boy named Jamal prep for his reading exam. Laughing, tired, fulfilled, they packed their car, waved goodbye to the staff, and headed home under the soft glow of streetlights. Then came the headlights. Bright. Close. Relentless. Why's that cruiser been behind us for the last mile? Ruby asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. No idea, Ivy replied, tightening her grip on the steering wheel. We're not speeding. We didn't do anything. The siren wailed. The blue and red lights lit up the night. Pulled over on the side of an empty road, Ivy's hands trembled slightly as she rolled down the window. Officer Reeves approached, flashlight in hand, face unreadable. Evening, ladies, he said flatly. You know why I stopped you? No, sir, Ivy replied, trying to keep her voice calm. Is something wrong? Reeves didn't answer. Officer Miller appeared on the other side, hand resting on his holster. Step out of the vehicle. Both of you. Confusion. Fear. Sir, may I ask why? Suspicious activity, Reeves replied. We've had reports of a vehicle matching this description. We're gonna search it. You can't, there's no probable cause. Step out. Now. Within minutes, their car was torn apart, glove box emptied, bags dumped. Ruby watched, shaking. Then, Reeves froze. He reached into the back seat, pulled out a small Ziploc bag, filled with a fine white powder. Ruby's voice cracked. What? What is that? That's not ours. We don't. Reeves turned slowly, eyes cold. Looks like you two have a lot to explain. Cuffs clicked. Cold steel on skin. Ivy's breath came in shallow bursts as she tried to protest, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of their rights being read. At the station, the kindness disappeared entirely. They were separated. Shouted at. Accused. Threatened. You think you're special. You think those good girl smiles are gonna save you. Miller hissed. Just admit it. It'll go easier. We know it was yours. But Ivy and Ruby refused. Because they weren't guilty. And deep down, something told them they weren't the first to be caught in this trap. The cell was small, cold, and smelled of bleach and decay. Ivy and Ruby sat on opposite bunks, arms wrapped around themselves as the fluorescent light overhead flickered with a soft buzz, each pulse a reminder of where they were and how far they'd fallen. Hours felt like days. The concrete walls pressed in on them, suffocating. Every time footsteps echoed in the corridor, their hearts seized, unsure what came next. No phone call. No lawyer. Just silence. Then, the door creaked open. Logan Reeves stepped in, looming in the doorway, hands in his pockets, eyes unreadable. Something about him had changed. The smugness was gone, replaced by something else. Uncertainty. Regret? He didn't look at them when he spoke. You've got two options. His voice was low, calm, but razor sharp. Cooperate, and this goes easy. Say the drugs were yours, plead out, you'll be out in a couple years. He paused. Fight it. You'll rot in here. Maybe worse. Ruby stood, fire in her eyes. You set us up. That's not ours, you know it. Reeves finally looked at her. His jaw tightened. Doesn't matter what I know. It's what they can prove. Then he stepped out, slamming the door behind him. For hours, Ivy and Ruby sat in the dim light, fear gnawing at their minds. But that night, as the station quieted and the guards grew lazy, voices slipped through the thin cell walls. Reeves and Miller. Laughing. They freaked out when I pulled that bag from the seat, Miller sneered. Didn't even see it coming. Yeah, Reeves replied, quieter. Just like the others. We've done this before, remember? They all break eventually. Or disappear, Miller chuckled darkly. A beat of silence. Reeves' voice dropped to a whisper, but the words were clear. No one's gonna save them. Not in this town. Ivy's blood ran cold. She looked at Ruby, eyes wide, breath shallow. They weren't the first. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. A system. And now, they were caught in it. Outside the prison walls, the fight had already begun. Rachel Vaughn didn't do small-town cases. She didn't defend troubled girls, or take on impossible odds. But when Monica Quinn called her, voice shaking, desperation bleeding through the phone, Rachel didn't hesitate. She arrived the next morning in a tailored navy suit, sharp heels clicking against the marble floor of the county courthouse. Her presence turned heads. Her reputation preceded her. You want them free, she said to David and Monica, voice steel cold. Then let me dig. But I warn you, whatever's behind this, it's going to be ugly. Within days, Rachel's instincts proved right. Through a contact in Jackson, she learned that someone, a whistleblower, had reached out to the U.S. Department of Justice. A tip-off about South Haven PD, allegations of planted evidence, fabricated arrests, names, numbers, and Ivy and Ruby's case. Just the tip of the iceberg. But the town didn't want the truth uncovered. Not yet. One night, a plain manila envelope appeared at the Quinn's doorstep, no return address, no stamps. Inside, a single piece of paper, typed, unsigned. Stop digging or bury your daughters. This town protects its own. Monica's hands shook as she read it aloud. David stepped outside to clear his head, and froze. At the edge of their driveway, a black SUV sat motionless, engine running. No plates. Just tinted windows and silence. The next night, it was back. And the night after that. Rachel stood at the window, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. They are watching. That means we're close. Closer than they want us to be. David clenched his fists. What do we do? Rachel turned to him, her voice a low growl. We push harder. And we bring in the big guns. She picked up the phone. DOJ needs to move. Now. Hope had arrived. But danger was right behind it. 3 days after the anonymous threat, an unmarked SUV pulled into the Quinn's driveway, but this time, it wasn't intimidation. It was reinforcements. Agent Natalie Torres of the FBI stepped out, credentials flashing, expression sharp and unreadable. She shook David's hand firmly, nodded to Monica, and turned to Rachel. We have what we need. But you're going to want to sit down for this. In a private room, Agent Torres laid it all out, hard, undeniable evidence, months in the making. Reeves and Miller weren't just two bad cops, they were predators, and they'd been at it for years. At least 12 victims, Torres began, framed with planted narcotics, all to boost arrest numbers and pad their department's success rates. She slid a folder across the table. Inside, screenshots. Internal messages pulled from their department-issued phones. Reeves, got 2 pretty ones. Innocent as hell. 1 bag of powder, and they're done. Miller, same playbook. No one ever fights back. David's hands trembled as he read the words. Rachel's jaw clenched. Sick bastards thought they were untouchable, she muttered. Torres wasn't done. We intercepted a recording. A wire worn by a DOJ informant. Listen. She hit play. The grainy audio crackled to life. Reeves' voice, unmistakable. As long as Lawson's got our backs, no one's touching us. He'll bury whatever needs burying. Lawson. Police Chief Henry Lawson. The man sworn to protect the town, The man who now stood at the heart of a conspiracy that spanned years, ruined lives, and nearly destroyed 2 innocent girls. Torres looked up, eyes hard. "We're going public. And when we do, the entire town is going to know who's been running this system, and what they've been hiding." For the first time, David Quinn felt something pierce through the fear and rage. Hope. And it was loaded with justice. The courtroom pulsed with tension. Every seat was filled, reporters, residents, even off-duty cops crammed into the aisles. Cameras rolled silently, waiting for the moment when justice would finally speak. At the defendant's table, Logan Reeves and Chase Miller sat in tailored suits, smug as ever. Reeves leaned back casually, arms crossed, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "They've got nothing," he whispered to Miller. "Just like before. We walk, again." Miller chuckled. "Let the twins cry. They're done." But outside those walls, the storm was already brewing. Across town, FBI agents and DOJ operatives stormed the South Haven Police Department. File cabinets ripped open. Hard drives seized. Hundreds of falsified reports, altered evidence logs, and sealed-off complaints were recovered within hours. The news broke during the trial. Inside the courtroom, cell phones buzzed, reporters scrambled. Judge Harlan, a man known for restraint, raised an eyebrow as whispers erupted around him. Then, the doors burst open. Agent Natalie Torres strode in, flanked by federal marshals. "Your Honor, we have new evidence. And an arrest warrant." Reeves and Miller froze. Logan Reeves. "Chase Miller. You are under arrest for evidence tampering, civil rights violations, and obstruction of justice." Handcuffs clicked. The same cuffs once slammed onto Ivy and Ruby's wrists. The same cuffs Reeves had mocked. Now locked around his. The courtroom erupted, gasps, shouts, flashes from cameras. Ivy and Ruby sat still, hands clasped tightly, eyes never leaving the 2 men now being dragged away. But it wasn't over. "Your Honor," Rachel Vaughn stood, voice clear, "the prosecution calls a new witness." A man stepped forward, face tense, eyes haunted. Officer Mark Ellis, former partner of Reeves. "I can't carry it anymore," he said quietly. "I know what they've done. And I know what they've hidden." He turned to the jury. "They didn't just plant evidence. They killed a man, Donnell Briggs. He was going to testify against them. They said it was self-defense. It wasn't." A beat of stunned silence. Then the room exploded. Screams. Outrage. Reporters lunging forward, Judge Harlan pounding his gavel to no avail. Justice had just detonated. And no one would walk away untouched. 20 years. That was the sentence handed down to Logan Reeves and Chase Miller, 2 decades behind bars for violating civil rights, falsifying evidence, and corruption at the highest level of public trust. The courtroom was packed again, but this time, there were no smirks. No arrogance. Only the cold clang of justice falling. Federal reform swept through South Haven City. The entire police department was gutted, restructured from the ground up. Officers with even a whiff of misconduct were gone. Oversight committees were formed. No more silence. No more fear. But for Ivy and Ruby Quinn, freedom wasn't enough. They filed a civil lawsuit against the city and won. The settlement was historic. Not just for the money, but for what it meant, an acknowledgement that the system had failed them and so many others. With the funds, they launched the Quinn Foundation, aimed at supporting wrongfully accused individuals and exposing systemic abuse. Their names became more than a symbol, they became a movement. College campuses, law schools, town halls. Ivy and Ruby stood before crowds, not as victims, but as warriors. Their story didn't just inspire, it ignited. And then came the night that marked the end of one chapter, and the beginning of something bigger. A massive auditorium, packed to the rafters. Cameras rolling. The world watching. Ivy stood at the podium, Ruby by her side. Their presence was electric. There was a time when we were mocked, shackled, and silenced, Ivy said, voice calm but powerful. A time when those in power thought they could bury us beneath lies. Ruby stepped forward. But now, those same people sit behind bars. And they are the ones who live in fear. The crowd erupted in cheers. Applause thundered through the hall. As the cameras panned, the scene cut to Reeves and Miller, dressed in prison orange, seated at a steel table, heads bowed, their world now confined by cold walls and time they could never escape. The cell door slammed shut. Justice had spoken. And this time, it would never be silenced again. Justice isn't for the weak, but true strength lies in those who refuse to back down. In a system corrupted by power, the innocent become prey, and silence becomes a weapon. But truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface, no matter how deep it's buried. Money can buy lies. Power can twist reality. But no force on earth can hide evil forever. Because when the brave stand up, when even one voice dares to fight, the system trembles. And justice rises.